What up, Space Fam? Goes in here from Anime Upper, and I'm back at it again with another One Piece video, and this time we will be exploring Luffy's power and why exactly everyone is so scared of our joyful protagonist. So make sure to stay tuned for that. If you do enjoy these One Piece videos and want to keep them coming, you know what to do. Channel Pirate King within and smash that like button with no mercy. Remember, smashing that like button is Pirate King energy and passing is Scared Orochi energy, so choose wisely. If you haven't, make this the video, subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications or you will miss future One Piece videos and updates. And while you wait for the next video to drop, feel free to check out my huge and growing One Piece playlist that includes videos on all the Yonko, Warlords, mythical zones, and much more. Link to that is in the description. And now, without further ado, let's jump into it, spoilers and all. Recently, during chapter 1042 of the One Piece manga, a CP0 agent received a message. The 5 elders have issued an edict. He was surprised about it coming directly from the 5 elders. It must be important if they issued this directly. Then the message goes on. Eliminate Straw Hat Luffy at once, end quote. At first, our CP0 agent actually protests, saying, what do you mean? Straw Hat is fighting Kaido right now. You want me to interfere with Kaido's battle? That's impossible. The voice responds, it's a world-class battle, which is why it's so dangerous. These orders are meant to prevent the worst case scenario, you understand. Even Izo overhears this, thinking, what is it about this crew that the 5 elders would want to get rid of Luffy so badly they'd even interrupt Kaido's fight with one of their best? The CP0 agent goes on to interrupt the fight, and as a result, a helpless and exhausted Luffy takes the full brunt of Kaido's attack at point blank range. Ironically, Kaido is crushed partly because he wanted a fair fight, and beyond that, it brings back bad memories of when his fight with Odin was interrupted, a memory that clearly still haunts him to this day. Just as he handled Kurozumi Higurashi for interrupting his fight with Odin, he similarly appears to finish off the already injured CP0 agent for interrupting this fight with Luffy. Thus, the 5 elders were willing to lose one of their best CP0 agents and anger Kaido at the same time, the man called the world's strongest creature, just so they could kill Luffy and avoid a potential worst case scenario. It's just crazy to think about, but soon enough it appears that what they so feared begins to happen anyways. The proclaimed dead Luffy comes back to life, but this time he comes back with an awakened fruit, Gear 5, and as the joy boy of the new era. We jump back to the 5 elders talking, and they think about how they just lost an elite agent and made Kaido angry. One says, and I quote, what if I told you that there was a potential future that would make us beg for this outcome? It is always better to eliminate dangerous variables, end quote. We're further told, in every era the world government has attempted to recover the Gum Gum fruit, and not once has it succeeded. For 800 years, it is as though the devil fruit is trying to escape our grasp, and it very well might. Zone fruits contain a will of their own, and this particular fruit has the name of a god. The other name of the Gum Gum fruit is the zone type human fruit mythical model Nika. Possessing a body with properties of rubber and fighting in whatever way he fancies, he brings smiles to the faces of the people, the warrior of liberation, also known as Nika the sun god. Awakening brings his rubber body greater physical strength and freedom. It is said in all the world there is no power more ridiculous, end quote. And notably, not one but 2 exclamation marks are used after the word ridiculous. So this is what they've been trying to avoid. Luffy seemingly possesses the single most wanted fruit that even the world government hasn't been able to get and keep, despite all of their power and resources. It was such a big deal that they changed its name and wanted to completely erase its history. However, despite all their effort, Luffy actually awakened the Nika fruit and gained godly powers. That's why I somewhat jokingly said that Luffy accidentally passed the goal of becoming the Pirate King and became a pirate god. To use his own words, Luffy reached the peak of this most special and arguably overpowered of fruits. Now yes, the exact words were the most ridiculous fruit, but when you think of how much the government feared it, then it's not a stretch, pun intended, to say that it is the most special of fruits. Even during Who's Who's fight against Jinbei, Who's Who mentioned sun god Nika, a figure slaves would pray to in the long distant past. He was a legendary warrior they believed would one day free them. He'd bring smiles to their faces and deliver them from suffering. Who's Who said that he actually clung to that strange legend himself. That prison guard who told him about the story of Nika disappeared days later. Who's Who felt he was in danger too, so he risked it all to escape. He asks Jinbei, is it deadly to even know about the legend? That's how crazy scared the world government is of the awakened fruit, that even knowing the legend of Nika is grounds for making people disappear. But that's not the only takeaway from the story that Who's Who tells. Nika gave people, even Who's Who himself, hope. He was a figure who united people under him, even people as unlike Luffy as Who's Who found solace in the legend. Nika kept people's will from being broken and promised freedom from slavery and by extension from the oppressing forces of the world government and the celestial dragons. The world government even feared the legend, so it makes sense that the thought of having a ridiculously powerful flesh and blood sun god Nika scared them to no end. Not only do they probably fear the godly power and its potential, but they feared that this figure will motivate the oppressed around the world to stand up and seek their freedom from the world government, knowing that if they take the first step, Nika will probably aid them in their endeavor, just like he aided many others. This will lead to a domino effect that will very quickly become an existential threat to the very existence of the world government. Thus, Luffy physically and perhaps more importantly symbolically poses a threat to the continued existence of the world government and the current world order. They fear nothing more than him as Sun God, bringing a new dawn of freedom. And then we come to Luffy's actual use of Gear 5 and his Fruit Awakening. He seems to be able to break all the rules. He says this is the pinnacle of what he can do. He is able to grab Dragon Form Kaido like a toy snake and pull him up back to the roof. He slams him into the ground over and over again. We've spoken of the Toon World powers on this channel, where it seems like Luffy can use cartoon logic to bend reality for himself, others, and the environment around him. We were told that with this awakening, the user can fight in any way he fancies, but I did not expect that Luffy would be quite this free to do anything with his new powers. We see him rubberize the ground and pull it up in order to send Kaido's blast breath back at him. We see Luffy blow himself up like a balloon inside Kaido's body, and while still inside, even stick his hands through Kaido's eyeballs so he can grab the dragon's nose. He takes on a giant godlike form that makes it appear like he towers over Kaido's giant dragon form in a panel, and then he even uses Kaido as a skipping rope. He can fly by running through the air. He can re-enter this all-white Gear 5 form after it drains him. His rubber properties have gotten so advanced that his face will just wrap around stuff like spiked clubs when they hit him. He can even rubberize the ground under him along with himself to dampen the effects of attacks. He's seen punching Kaido through the face even. Don't ask me how that works, I have no idea. Even Kaido says that awakening is what happens when your mind and body catch up to their powers, and that Luffy's are certainly some ridiculous powers. Most recently, we saw Luffy with a lightning bolt in his hand, making him look like a lightning god. At this point, there is seemingly very little if anything he can't do. He seems to be the epitome of the quote, if you can dream it, you can achieve it, and he's been dominating Kaido with these new powers, the man dubbed the strongest creature in the world. Despite the fact that I'm sure we've only seen the top of the iceberg that is Luffy's new potential, he's already been doing crazy good against Kaido, who among the living Yonko has the highest bounty at 4.6 billion berries. I'm not saying that Kaido won't still put up a fight, but it seems clear at this point that Luffy will win, and that furthermore, this 19-year-old's rate of growth makes Kaido look like a snail rather than a dragon. Once this fight is finished, there's little doubt in my mind that Luffy will have the highest bounty ever, even surpassing Pirate King Gold D. Roger's own bounty of 5,564,800,000 berries. Not only will he have beaten Kaido, the Yonko with the highest bounty, he'd also be the fully realized worst case scenario that the world government feared so much, not to mention all of the other connections Luffy has, including to Monkey D. Dragon, the world's worst criminal, and to Shanks, the man with enough sway to stop Kaido from attacking Whitebeard, to stop the Paramount War, and to meet with the 5 elders when he feels like it. Whether he consciously knows it or not, Luffy wants the same thing as Dragon, liberation, so it's clear that his father is the kind of guy to have the Warrior of Liberation's back. Then there's just basic stuff like Luffy being a D-Clan member and a Conqueror's Haki user, both of which make him all the more dangerous. And of course, there's a famous observation that Mihawk made that it's not Luffy's powers or techniques. Luffy possesses some quality that makes people want to help him, and in these waters, Mihawk called that the most formidable power of all. Combine Luffy's ability to connect people with Sun God Nika's ability to even reach someone like Who's Who, and you start to realize why this is such a dangerous ability. United we stand and divided we fall is a truth known by the world government, and Luffy, especially as the Sun God, is so scary because he can unite people behind him, even potentially people on the world government's own side, and there's nothing more dangerous than that when trying to maintain control over so many diverse groups and peoples. So there it is, why everyone is scared of Luffy. Yeah, he's a Sun God and can bend reality itself, he's become ridiculously strong, and his rate of growth is beyond belief when compared to even other legends in the world, which is enough to scare most people, but it goes beyond that, especially for the world government. him naturally having the ability to unite people behind him, and then him also being the realized sun god Nika, whose legend alone could reach someone like Who's Who, means that he is the greatest threat to the world government, since the world government needs people to be divided if they wish to successfully keep them down. And then there are the insane facts that Luffy has connections to Monkey D. Dragon, the leader of the revolutionaries, and to Shanks, and you can see how this man is a bigger threat to the world government than Gold D. Roger, and how they must give him a bigger bounty, even after adjusting for inflation. I mean, physically alone, we were told that Kaido is the strongest creature, and that if it's a one-on-one battle, Kaido will win. And yet, we pretty much know by now that Luffy will beat him, and to boot, that insane power doesn't belong to a drunk doing his own thing and somewhat even working with the world government. Rather, Luffy is uncontrollable and wants liberation, aka freedom, for himself and others. We've seen how uncontrollable and uncompromising Luffy is when he punched the Celestial Dragon. Thus, in terms of threat level, there's no doubt in my mind that he'll get the highest bounty we've seen after this war. Zoro will even have a higher bounty than Luffy's current bounty of 1.5 billion berries, no doubt. And if the government was so panicked to stop the worst case scenario before it was even certain it would happen, there's little doubt that they'll go hard at Luffy after this war is done. They may even be desperate enough to work with Blackbeard to get it done. But that is it for this one. If you did enjoy it and want to keep the One Piece videos coming, you know what to do. Channel Pirate King within, and smash that like button with no mercy. Remember, smashing is Pirate King energy and passing is Orochi energy, so choose wisely. If you haven't, make this the video, subscribe and hit that notification bell to turn on all notifications, or you will miss future One Piece videos and updates. And while you wait for the next video to drop, feel free to check out my huge and growing One Piece playlist that includes videos on all the Yonko, Warlords, Mythical Zones, and much more. Link to that is in the description. And until next time, see ya, Space Cowboys.